Kann schon mal das Licht an. Mhm.
The industry of the ocean energy keeps getting bigger, and the solutions turn even more unique every time. For instance, this company is innovating the production of green hydrogen with their incredibly unique Kite Propulsion System. Let me introduce OCEANERGY. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Builder Nation. Today, we are joined by Wolfram Reiners, CEO at OCEANERGY. Welcome, Wolfram. Thank you very much for joining us today. Could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Yeah, my name is Wolfram Reiners. I'm the founder and CEO of OCEANERGY. We are a German company out of Stuttgart, Southwest Germany, a machine manufacturer with great tradition there. My background, I do innovations of pretty much my entire career for almost 30 years by now. First, I was in information technology, also when the internet came up, made myself financially independent, went into professional sports, speed sailing. Did that with kites, was also successful, was the fastest German sailor. The outright speed sailing record. I came around the entire world using wind and kites, harnessing wind. Well, today I'm back at my desk, in 2012, actually at the World Cup in Le Cat in France. We had a long discussion about energy and kites and how do you harvest it with sails, with turbines. And this is how this project was born. We have a daughter company in South Africa, in Cape Town, at the Cape of Storm, where we basically test our systems. So this is my background. I mean, we do technical innovations and protection of intellectual property.
Wow, that's quite the background. I definitely did know. I did check that. First of all, you're already a pro at this thing about kiting and everything. It is pretty amazing. I also know that you already have almost 30 years of experience in this entire range of innovation, right, and entrepreneurship, which is really cool, and we're gonna definitely touch about that. But for now, let's delve right into it. Let's delve right into OCEANERGY. Now, we shared a few videos about your company. We shared them around on social media. However, for any of those who might not have seen the videos, maybe they were just maybe they missed them. Could you please explain to us on a general basis what the objective of OCEANERGY is about these kite hydrogen ships and the idea of how to produce this hydrogen on board 24/7?
Yes, with pleasure, I will do that. I think the broader concept is the energy ship, right? What is an energy ship? I mean, you want to harvest green energy, and I mean, there's a kind of a misunderstanding almost even amongst experts, right? They think green energy, so green electricity, is either not scalable, like hydropower, for instance, right? I mean, you have like rivers flowing and you harness power, but I mean all the good locations are taken, so you can't actually scale it more. You can't build more of these power plants, or if they are scalable, they deliver intermittent electricity, like solar power, for instance, or wind power, right? So when the sun is up during the day and there's no clouds, you do have power, and in the night or when there's cloud, you don't have. It's pretty predictable if you do it in a desert. When you do it with wind, it's pretty unpredictable. Sometimes you have wind even in a long row, 3-4 days in a row possibly, but then you have also periods of no wind up to 2-3 weeks sometimes. Right. That is actually not a God-given. That is not a law of physics or a law of nature, because there are regions in the world where you have a constant wind, round the clock, permanent strong wind, and that is in certain zones on the open ocean, actually vast zones on the open ocean. When you sail, say, from the United States to Europe, or from the United States through the Pacific Ocean in the right wind zones, you will find very strong wind round the clock 24/7. And this is the concept of the energy ship. You go out there and you harvest these natural power sources with an energy ship. So that is a fundamental concept first, right? So,
Right.
and then we have the topic of kites. How do you actually harvest wind energy? I mean, let's go back a couple of centuries in wind harvesting technologies, right? They did it with sails. First, it was sails, basically an area you put up in the sky, and it drives the ship forward, right? And then later they came to aerodynamic sails, where you can even tack upwind. The sailors know that, you can tack even against the wind. You can navigate fully wherever you want from one point on the ocean to the other if you want. And then you have the problem of scaling the sails, right? You couldn't make them big. I mean, if any sailor knows that you have an optimal sail size. You can't just, when you want to get faster and you want to have more energy, you can't just put up more sail. Why?
Right.
Because you have a mast. There's a mast which has torque at its foundation. And then there is the method of turbines, well known. You also have a mast, and you put rotors up in the wind stream. Same problem, scaling. You can't make these just endlessly big because you have this torque at the foundation. And then there is a less known technology to harvest wind, which is kites. So it's basically an aerodynamic wing you put up in the air. It's heavier than air. It flies aerodynamically like an aeroplane. And it's tethered to the ground. That makes up a kite. It exercises on the ground a translational linear force. There's no mast. There's no torque because there's no mast. And these kites you can scale beyond any theoretical limits. Right? That is the concept with kites. So we combine these two technologies, energy ships and kite-driven. And here you are at the kite-driven ship that you can scale in its power tremendously. Now, so if this is kinetic power, Sam, at this stage, I mean, there's wind. Wind is air molecules. They have a certain mass. They move. Kinetic energy, you capture them with your kite, you translate that into a linear directed force. And this force you can use to drive generators. So you produce electricity, electrons. And now you're on the open ocean. You got a lot of electricity. How do you store it? That's the next problem, right?
It is definitely.
In 2012, when we started this project, I first thought of battery ships, kite battery ships. The whole ship is a huge battery, right? And you create electricity and you store it in form of batteries. And then we did the math around it, and you realize in this strong wind, your battery would be full within a day, within 24 hours. Your battery is full. That's the amount of energy you actually create, right? I mean, you could dock such a ship and you have a huge battery. I mean, delivering a lot of power, a lot of megawatt hours.
Right.
But it's not feasible because you have to get in and out all the time. So you basically lose half of you have permanent wind, but you lose half of your time by getting in and out of the harbor, more or less.
Yeah, it's not viable, right?
Absolutely. So you need to find a different way of storing it. Today, I think it's pretty much well known. Hydrogen technologies. 12 years ago, it was not so-called power to X technology. So you got power, electricity, and you got X. And X can be all sorts of things. It can be hydrogen. It can be other forms of what they call e-fuels, electro-fuel, electricity-based fuels.
Right.
So you have electricity. You do electrolysis. You have anode, cathode. We all learned that in school once, right? You dip it into water. You put a voltage to it, and one of the electrodes you have oxygen, and the other one you create hydrogen. And oxygen, it's like a fresh forest, right? Fresh air you can release into the atmosphere. It's a very desirable substance. And then you have hydrogen, and hydrogen you can collect. And hydrogen is an excellent energy carrier. And when you burn hydrogen, you can burn it in other combustion engines. You can burn it cold, so-called cold burning in fuel cells, where you create electricity And what comes out of that is water, pure water. So you take oxygen out of the atmosphere and hydrogen, it becomes H2O. And desirable substance, that's your exhaust. So when you burn hydrogen, your exhaust is pure water. Very desirable. And that is what we use on these Kite hydrogen ships. So we actually store hydrogen on board of these ships as an energy carrier, as a substance that carries this wind energy inside, so to speak, right? Or you transform it to e-fuels. There's all sorts of e-fuels. It's basically, once you have hydrogen, you can transform it to anything you can buy at the gas station, at the petrol station.
Right.
Hydrocarbon. Yeah, please come here.
Right. This actually does drive one question for me. Now, you already explained how you take advantage of this kite energy. This linear force that it generates. They have no mass. Now, my question to you is, how did you first actually start or prototype a device, a turbine, a hydrokinetic turbine that would essentially power an electrolysis, reaction, right? On board, like that blows my mind. The fact that it is on board, the fact that it is doing it very constantly, right? How long did it take you to actually get to that point to make it, sustainable, self-sustainable in that sense?
Okay, let's take a step back and see where we are. We have not built such an energy ship yet. We are a startup company operating for almost 12 years. The first 5 years or so, I spent calculating. I thought, is this, it's a magnificent idea, right? You have like 2/3 of the world's surface is ocean, and half of it about has this permanent wind on it. And it's unused, right? If you today on a ship, if you sail over the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean in these wind zones, what you see once a week, another watercraft at the horizon, right? That is how empty it is. So you have all that space, you can scale these mobile power plants. So is that science fiction, or is that real? Or is it a dream, or so? So I spent calculating mathematics, physics. I did basically, I pulled out all my math and physics and chemistry out of my school knowledge and from university and so forth, dive deep into it. And then after like 2 or 3, 4 years, I realized, this is a real business opportunity. This is not science fiction. This is not a dream, right? And then we started to build. I was a professional kite surfer and speed sailor at that time. So we built a prototype boat, equipped it with a kite, equipped it with measurement technology, and we did tests, right? How much power do we get out of how much wind? What is the traction force? We did not have any generators then, Sam, at that point in time. The rest was mathematics.
Yes.
And we realized this is a real opportunity. And then we started also, you need to protect your ideas, right? And I have a lot of experience that from my business career as an innovator. Like when you do innovations, you can't just go ahead and do things. They will invariably steal it from you. You have to protect it. So you keep a lot secret, what you can, what you can't keep secret, you basically patent, right? So we started drafting patents about particularly crucial portions of this kite-driven energy mobile plant, right? and then we started building the machine, the Kite Propulsion System.
Right.
Look, when I told you before, a kite as opposed to a mast-based system like a turbine or a sail can be scaled beyond any limit. It has all these magnificent properties, right? We were beating speed sailing records with kites. We won competitions with kites. The sailors were slower than we were. Nobody came to the idea to come with a turbine, by the way, the turbine-driven ship. Right? That is way too inefficient. Right? So we knew the kites, but as much as this missing mast gives you advantage, it is also your major disadvantage, because you have to keep that wing up in the air at all times. Day, night, bad wind, good wind, strong wind, weak wind, gusty wind, rain, hail, combination of all these and so forth. This thing
Right.
must not come down, right? This is very, very difficult. I mean, the kite surfers may listen in today. They know that once their kite is up in the air, it's all easy in the sport. But when it comes down and the kite crashes, they have a problem. And
Right.
even more so will our ships have. So we built that machine that keeps the kite up in the air in all conditions at once. And then secondly, it has to be able to handle these huge forces that kite basically extracts from that kinetic energy. I mean, you deal with enormously high forces, right? Which later translate into megawatt electricity and megawatt hydrogen or megawatt methanol or ammonia or any other e-fuel, gasoline, kerosene, and so on. But it's difficult. And so we started building these machines, protecting these machines, patenting these machines since 2018. And since 2020, we fly them in Cape Town at our Kite Test Center on land in prototypes. That's now the 4th test season we are in. And we have built the 4th generation of these kite propulsion systems. And I mean, on the way getting there, I mean, you deal with an enormous amount of technical problems. I mean, you have no idea, Sam. I mean, like problems that seem to be unsurmountable, partly, right? Like, I mean, in 2015, I recall very well when I went near Zurich, Switzerland, to a technical polycon or a technical university, a professor dealing with kites, and I was sitting there, and he explained to me at great length, and he said, they were also building kite systems and energy systems. And he said, you want to build a textile kite, and we call it a composite textile kite. He said, that will not work. We have also, I mean, in my doctoral dissertation 10 years ago, I was an expert in composite textiles. It will not work. It's not strong enough.
Wow.
We build today hard wings, hard kites. They are out of aluminium or glass fiber, reinforced plastics, and so anything else is stupid. I mean, you may imagine I was sitting there embarrassed. I was not so much motivated to tell him my entire story anymore. I thought, okay, hopefully this guy doesn't find out that I'm on the blind alley, and so. But then we went back. We went back to the science, and in those days was still the space shuttle. You remember that? The US American space shuttle, and when the space shuttle lands with a very high speed, by the way, I think out of my head now, I think it's 550 kilometers per hour. Was it 300 miles per hour? So it comes down on that runway, and then comes this brake parachute, which opens, and you have, at the moment when it opens, I mean, enormous shock load, and I don't know, those who know about space technologies, I don't know, every kilogram of mass you transport into space is tremendously expensive. So
right.
Has to be light. You carry it all the way up into the orbit, and then you bring it down, and I mean, every kilogram counts, and then you have this shock load, which is only there for a second or two, but it can't rip in the shock load, right? And we're asking ourselves, how do they do it? And this technology inspired us, and today we build kites. I mean, for 3 years already, we build kites with not dissimilar technology, with materials that were not even known 15 years ago, like HMPE, high modular weight polyethylene. That is synthetic fibers, a fiber with the same diameter as a steel rope, for instance, can hold forces 15 times more than steel. And that at a fraction of the weight. That is HMPE.
Right.
And the synthetic fiber of, and we use these kind of materials, very light, very, very strong. And today I can tell this professor there in Zurich, you are wrong. You are actually wrong. Our kites, they hold like 10 times more load than your aluminium wings.
It
And
only took
much
10
more
years.
lighter. Pardon me?
It only took 10 years, but hey, you can tell them already. You're right.
It takes time, but that's just one example of many
Of course.
technical problems you encounter. And of course, you find people, I mean, intellectually high-powered people, from also venture capital funds, investors,
Hmm.
they tell you it will not work. I
Right.
promise you, it will not work. No, I'm a physicist, I'm a chemist, I'm an engineer, whatever. We have a lot of money and brilliant people. It will not work, they tell you. And you step
Right.
there and you say, no, I'm going to make this work. And I mean, we have, to give you an idea, our company, we employ some 25 engineers and
Hmm.
technicians, and I mean, brilliant, brilliant people. And they sit there day and night and they find a solution. And today we can say we have on land, still on land, Sam. We
All
have
right.
on land resolved all the technical barriers and issues,
Wow.
including scaling. We know how to build this system big, beyond 100 megawatts, right? But the biggest wind turbines today, offshore wind
Wow.
turbines, they arrive at 9 megawatts. That they sometimes deliver. One has
Right.
to say in all fairness. And we will build in the next 10 years energy ships beyond 100 megawatts, delivering round the clock 24 times 7. I
Right.
mean, 32 times more energy than over the year and per square meter a wind turbine can do. This is the track we are on. It's
Hmm.
just a matter of funds and money and time to make this reality. We will know today it does work. We have proven it
Right.
in our land-based tests. So that's it was a long answer to an innocent short question, but
Hey, no, that's what we're here for. I really like these very deeply, very broad answers. Thank you very much for that, Wolfram. Now, I do have a couple last questions, but I'm gonna just stick to one because I really want to know your answer. But I mean, we want to keep this short, right? This question that I have for you is in the space of actual applications, right? Like when you already have these, when you already launch these ships fully usable, I can really imagine that. Of course, this is going to be very useful for maybe transatlantics or maybe perhaps ships that are going to be in sail for a very long period of time. They're going to be able to generate the energy in store, right? However, do you think this has any other type of applications? For example, maybe that it can eventually turn into some sort of I don't know, for submarines, I can think, right, that you can deploy this and then bring it back down to continue without having to actually get back and touch base, for example, right? Or maybe for the military or for any other of these applications. Where do you see this being applied just beyond what you would typically go for in a transatlantic or a big ship?
our kite propulsion system you're referring to,
Yes.
supposedly, right?
Yes.
So the prime application is the energy ship, right?
Hmm.
Getting energy, green fuels, actually, on the open ocean, out of sight, where nobody feels disturbed, with no limits to scaling, and completely emission free. I mean, you bring back fuel, nobody is disturbed. Not in my backyard problems. So it comes back. No animal, no plant, no human is disturbed by it. You
Right.
bring fuels back to the harbor, and then you can use it as we do it today, in your motor car, in your aeroplane, in your ship, in your
Hmm.
industry, and so on and so on. That's the prime application. We do have other applications. We see other applications too. There's a big demand for like trans-ocean crossing, for instance,
Hmm.
of motor yachts. If today, I mean, it's usually wealthy people, if they have a super yacht, they don't have
Right.
the range to cross the ocean. And if they want to have like their summer holiday in France, in Saint-Tropez, in the Mediterranean, and their winter holiday in the Caribbean, they have to load their super yacht
Right.
on big ship to transport it. And in the future, they can have such a kite propulsion system, unobtrusively. Stored in a box, and open it up, and you press the button, and out comes the kite, and then they can do a trans-ocean crossing over the ocean within 3 weeks, completely emission-free. and fuel free. You don't have to
Hmm.
buy hundreds of thousands of dollars of fuel and take the blame that you have emissions and you disturb the environment, etc. So that is one application we have. We have another application to electrify motorboats, powerboats,
Hmm.
which is like electric cars. I mean, today, of course, if you ask Elon Musk, he says you have to have electric cars, but the user doesn't want them. Why? Or many don't want them because it doesn't have the range. The battery goes flat, and
Right,
then
right, right.
when you stop your car and you're sitting there and you don't know what to do. If you're on a motorboat, this is disastrous. If you run a battery
Yes,
flat, you can actually lose your boat or your life, right? And so you need
yes.
an external power source on board, and that is where our system can be deployed to. So you obviously need
Hmm.
wind, right? But then you
Yes,
can charge your batteries when you have wind, and then when there's no wind, you use the charged power to
right.
drive an electric motor. And there's other applications of that, but these are, I think, the key
Yes.
applications with maximum value for customers and for all of us.
Right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. I could definitely keep talking about this for a very long time. It's very interesting, but I want to keep it short. So I just have one last question, all right? And in this question, I want to really dive into your history of 25 plus years of entrepreneurship, of innovation. You're already a well-renowned and successful inventor of many things, right? So my question to you is, what advice would you give to any young entrepreneur, any young scientist, any young engineer out there who is maybe thinking or has an idea and wants to start their own path with their own company? What advice do you have for
That's a difficult one, Sam. I mean, sometimes I think being an innovator and an inventor and really doing your own things and pursuing your ideas and your creativity, I mean, that is a long and stony path, in particular in the beginning. So sometimes the first 10 years when I did it, I wished I wished I didn't do it. You're like others, they go in employment and they drive nice cars and you're there and,
right?
and, and count your last dollars or euros and so. But then, today I think differently, of course. I had my successes and I know how to deal also with when you get thrown back, that
Right.
happens. You have mishaps, you have non-successes, you have opponents and all sorts of things. On the other hand, I mean, if I could choose today, I would say yes, I do it again. Why? For two reasons, actually. The first reason is I do every day what I want to do. I pursue my creative ideas and I want to make them happen but with great perseverance, right? You need that
Right.
perseverance. You need to decide for yourself, do you have that perseverance? And then you can do it. And yeah, and the second advice is many people have many ideas, and they
True.
don't lack ideas, but you need to have the drive to put your ideas into action, right? You will, like you did your station. I mean, you put it into action. Sit down
Hmm.
in the morning and start doing it, and don't think only about it. And in the end, be unhappy because you didn't do what you actually always wanted to do. And I think that is the problem of most people. They regret that they never did what they actually wanted to do.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, that is completely true. People tend to look back and say, "Oh, I wish I had done it on time," right? But yes, I definitely agree with you. Thank you for two advices. We got a 2-for-1 this time, so that's great. Thank you very much for that, Wolfram. I believe, although I would wish to continue this conversation a lot longer, I want to be respectful of your time. So thank you very much, Wolfram, for joining us today. Uh, before I let you go, do you have any social media handles that you want to share with us? Where can we find you on OCEANERGY?
well, you can go on our website, oceanenergy.com, to get more information. Also, we do mostly technology development. I mean, I put every euro, every dollar into technology development, not into marketing. So this is not the brand new stuff on there, but it will give you a good idea, fair idea what we do. That we also have a LinkedIn page, I think, also not particularly well maintained. And that's pretty much, I mean, pretty much what we have. You know, we are engineers and technicians, right?
Right.
That is what we need to do. We will soon launch we live off investment, right? In investors, and I invite if any investors listen to that, you know, I invite you to contact us. But also, what we will do shortly, we will do a crowdfunding campaign, and possibly you want to report about it, you know, where normal people can put, you know, $100, $500, $1,000 in such a project, just for their peace of mind, to say, do something good for our planet and the environment.
Just to see it live, yeah.
And also, of course, to earn a multiple. You know, every $100 can in the end be 10,000, 100,000, and so like that is with groundbreaking innovations, and the Kite hydrogen ship is such a groundbreaking innovation.
I agree. I mean, I definitely when I came across this, I was really interested in getting to learn a lot more about it. Thank you very much for sharing everything that you have shared with us today. We will definitely be keeping an eye on that crowdfunding that you just mentioned, so we can share it around, and we'll hopefully make this Kite Propulsion System, the full device, just be already out there in the ocean. Thank you very much for that. Now, for everybody else out there, remember that we have a lot more interesting information, interesting articles, and more interviews directly on our website, buildernation.io, and as Builder Nation across all of social media. We're going to love to hear from you. Thank you very much for being part of this community. We're going to see you the next episode. And Wolfram, thank you very much for joining us. This was genuinely a really interesting talk. Thank you very much.
Ben, thank you so much for inviting me and to selecting those small, interesting topics. It's great what you free journalists do.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
When building the future is your priority, tedious procurement processes should be last on your list. The problem is that purchasing data is scattered across spreadsheets, receipts, emails, and messages. Tracking it all sucks and makes it easy to commit mistakes. Introducing the Control Hub Way, the all-in-one purchasing software for hardware companies. Buying parts, services, or office supplies? Submit a quick purchase request to buy from your list of approved vendors, or buy from a new provider. Buying from approved vendors is even easier. Import your shopping cart directly into your purchase request using our checkout integrations. When the order is ready, submit it for approval. We'll ping all pre-designated approvers both via Control Hub's website, email, and Slack notifications for a faster turnaround. If you need a PO, we got you. Generate it in one click. Online purchase? Boom, virtual card. Do an automatic 3-way match, pay invoices, and sync everything live with QuickBooks or NetSuite. Purchasing just got a lot easier. Control Hub. Get back to building.